Organizations tend to be so focused on doing what they always do, dealing with the stress and noise of the everyday, that they can find it difficult to recognize valuable opportunities right under their nose, and they tend to overvalue existing practice when confronted with something different. Sometimes the best ideas are hidden in plain view, and that is how I see our business. It presents a simple and smart solution put together in a way that's not been done before. We are a digital platform solution provider based in Mumbai. Our solution resets the way that buyers and suppliers interact, addressing the friction and creating cost benefits for both. We utilize the power of network and collaboration to modify the engagement process and release locked-in value which cannot otherwise be realized. Our selected market sector is the fast-growing India construction market, which is estimated to be valued at $1 trillion by 2025. Our monetization model does not rely on advertising or subscription, rather we take a share of the new value we create for our clients. The platform itself is free to use for any type of stakeholder and can create value for both the buyer and supplier from the very first transaction. Our goal is very simple. We want to make buyer-seller interactions much more efficient. Our business model cuts right to the heart of a key inefficiency which is largely overlooked, but which manifests itself across almost all transactions. It targets an unaddressed friction between buyers and suppliers, which creates suboptimal conditions for procurement interactions affecting both stakeholders. In doing so, we aim to be the smartest tool in the toolbox for buyers in the construction industry and the go-to sales channel for suppliers. Our mechanisms allow both parties to share in the gains in a win-win which is repeatable transaction after transaction. My name is Mike Glover and I am the founder CEO. I have more than 30 years experience and I leave it to your judgment on the extent to which it is positive in the context of digital creativity. I have worked in mature markets, transitional markets, as well as previously here in India. I've been involved in startups, in family organizations, and in multinationals with operational, commercial, functional, and M&A experience. I have been a managing director of a multinational. I have led a $350 million acquisition and a £1.8 billion joint venture merger. I've also spent the last few years developing ideas and solutions in and around innovation. I cannot change who I am, but I can tell you that I possess plenty of perseverance. I'm good with change and ambiguity, and I'm emotionally equipped to handle the fact that things will not happen as I expect. I'm also a realist, and I understand the difficulty of challenging current ways of doing business and overcoming existing behavior. The problem we solve is a fundamental one. Selling is extremely inefficient, as depicted in this Salesforce.com lead-to-deal conversion rate illustration. In fact, no other activity in business routinely operates at such a low level of efficiency, and yet failure rates of more than 90% are often accepted without question. Even the new adapted and highly targeted digital marketing initiatives do not really do much better, because they are addressing the symptoms rather than the cause. So why are so many customer approaches unsuccessful? Typically, it's about timing. It's simply not the right time to approach a customer, or there is just no relationship with the buyer decision maker. The result? Wasted sales and marketing costs, which are currently priced into existing sales. This inefficiency is then further compounded. Suppliers are left with unused, unsold spare capacity, which they would love to sell, but they are unwilling to invest in additional sales resource because of its low return on effort, and they are also unwilling to drop the price on the marginal sales for fear of disrupting overall market price. This unsold, unused spare capacity is also priced into existing sales. And who pays for this inefficiency? Existing customers. Our platform solution turns the engagement process on its head. Instead of suppliers displaying their products and credentials in the typical platform display and sell market model, it is the buyers who post up their requirements when they are ready to buy. Suppliers can view these requests and respond through the platform at no costs. All responses are discrete and can only be viewed by the buyer who posted the request, enabling individual and variable pricing. The saved sales and marketing costs are shared by the supplier with buyers when a sale is made. In addition, the platform anonymously aggregates the demand across multiple buyers, enabling suppliers to sell unused spare capacity at normal market rates. This cost benefit is also shared by the supplier across the buyers. Suppliers can find and win new business on a no-win, no-cost basis at normal market price, and buyers anonymously pool their spend to receive a cost benefit from the supplier. The mechanisms are smartly constructed to ensure that each party is motivated to follow the process and not cut a deal partway through the journey. The buyer's cost share benefit is paid in cash as buyers stop paying for their supplier's inefficiency, creating a new revenue stream for their organization. The platform contains a number of features which are compelling both for buyers and suppliers. Suppliers are able to simultaneously increase their sales and reduce costs, connecting with customers who are priced individually. At the same time, buyers are able to pool their spending power by anonymously combining their demand from a supplier, irrespective of how big or small a company they are. The mechanisms transform the engagement to capture a value that can be applied to all types of supply interactions, working for each new and repetitive transaction, making it a highly effective long-term value tool. The platform is free to use, and it generates granular and valuable market data made available to users without compromising individual data confidentiality. This level of data is not available in the market today. Monetization is based on a share of the new value creation. We do not need subscriptions or advertising. And nobody needs to discontinue any current practice or system. Our smart platform enhances the transaction process with a simple additional process, no different to using a platform like Amazon. Our market selection is based on a number of interrelated key factors. The first is a population dynamic. The population around the Indian Ocean is already much more significant than Western markets, and the future population growth dynamic would drive a very strong increase in demand for construction of all types. Using per capita cement consumption as a reference for construction intensity, it can be seen that India is less than half the world average. And if you use China as a benchmark for a population which has been catching up with the West on infrastructure and urban development, the potential is for construction intensity to increase by 4 times per capita on top of the population growth already highlighted. If you then look at the market structure for construction in India, it is highly fragmented both on the buy side and on the supply side, and there is real value in the platform's construct to interface between the two and to facilitate disintermediation. Competition for us is largely irrelevant, as we operate in a different space to our closest competition. E-commerce platforms most often work on the basis of display and sell and enable suppliers to be found by prospective buyers, effectively extending their reach. Flipkart and Amazon would be good examples. Business, however, does not so far use such a platform for their large and strategic spend categories. Why? Because business expects to be able to negotiate, and large buyers will expect to command more competitive pricing. Our platform enables individual and variable pricing. E-procurement platforms enable access by suppliers to true business buyers, though often at the cost of a subscription. Their efficiency focus is generally around the procurement process itself, and they do not facilitate spend aggregation by buyers to yield further cost savings like our platform. There are some consortia buying platforms which do, of course, enable aggregation of spend across multiple buyers, but only where those buyers buy the same product at the same price, a significant constraint which does not reflect competitive buying advantage. 2020 enables spend aggregation at a supplier even if buyers buy different products and/or at different prices. 2020 is effectively able to combine all of the value capture of each and all of its nearest competition and more without significant behavioral change implications. Our business model enables the platform to be available on a free-to-use basis. Monetization for us comes from taking a small portion of the value we create through each transaction. Based on conservative assumptions around the level of spend of an average buyer, our financial model assumes a value generation of $41,000 per buyer, of which $33,000 is received by the buyer and $8,000 retained by us as revenue earnings on an annualized basis. But to put this in context, for a single top-tier developer contractor putting in around 50% of its annual spend through the platform, we would generate a value of $2.6 million, $2.1 million of which will be gained by the buyer and $500,000 retained for 2020. Clearly, it's in our interest to target larger contractor developers, though in our financial assumptions they account for a small percentage of our sales mix. In practice, the larger companies will be our primary target. Costs associated with the model are mainly people-related costs and outsourcing costs. We intend to outsource the invoice and payment process to retain focus on driving transaction traffic. And we've also allowed 5% of our revenue as a cost for agency channel partners to enable us to acquire customers to generate our client base. This will complement our internal business development strategy, which will include all of the traditional marketing approaches like direct sales and the use of social media and direct email and telemarketing. In addition, we have already connected with channel partners who target the same industry and market sectors with complementary digital value offerings. This includes a digital solution for project coordination and management, a site safety map, and an equipment sharing app. 2020's platform will enable these third-party agencies to further monetize existing market relationships, as we will pay them a share of earnings for each introduction. Similarly, we intend to engage marketing agencies on a gain share basis. Where they have relationships with realtors and developers, they can further monetize through us, as well as save those existing clients money. It also becomes an interesting proposition for consultancies who have relationships with the larger developer contractors, since it provides an additional value-generating tool, providing a new layer of cost saving for existing clients and enabling collaboration down the client supply chain. Our costing has allowed for this gain share model across all three channels to market. Based on a base assumption that a free-to-use platform which generates value for all users, we have considered that we will capture 10,000 active users by the end of year 3 who will generate an overall platform revenue of $47 million. The more users that transact through the platform, the greater the value can be generated for each individual user, buyer or supplier, and the greater the benefit for the platform itself. Year 1 represents the build and launch of the platform, and we already have a minimum viable product and are preparing engagement with users. Year 2 is about generating a customer base, with the platform generating steadily growing demand, reaching profitability by the end of Q3 Year 2 at approximately 1,000 active users. In the Year 3, the platform will yield an EBITDA of $20 million, valuing the business using a conservative PE ratio of 4 at $80 million. To fund the journey to the Year 3 outlook, when operating cash flow has been ramped up, the business will need to raise $1 million operating cash burn in Year 1 and a further $2 million for Year 2. Consequently, we are looking to raise $1 million in investment in Year 1 and a further $2 million in Year 2 to fund further development and enhancements around the platform's usability based on the feedback from early users. This is a normal and effective strategy to ensure full alignment with user needs and behaviors and to recognize additional opportunities. We will also need to build up an effective support team structure to look after the maintenance of the platform's infrastructure and to support user engagement and penetration. We will set up an outsourced financial operation for our invoicing, collection and payment needs, at least at the beginning, to enable us to retain focus on the platform itself. We will also need funds to cover marketing costs and to finance the working capital requirements. The investment of $3 million will yield a 10 times return based on our financials and the Year 3 valuation at a PE ratio of 4 times EBITDA. This initial equity investment is offered at a discount of 15% on share price.